The town of Oakhaven was not on any map, but the GPS of the desperate always seemed to find it. Elias, a man whose life had been reduced to a suitcase and a haunting debt, found himself parked in front of the Iron Leaf Inn. The town was silent, but not peaceful. It was the silence of a held breath. The innkeeper, a woman named Martha, whose eyes were the color of tarnished silver, didn't ask for a credit card. She asked for a memory. "The room is yours for 3 nights," she whispered, pushing a glass jar across the counter. "In exchange, give me the memory of your first love's name. You won't need it here." Elias laughed, thinking it a local eccentricity. He leaned over the jar and whispered, "Sarah." Instantly, a hole opened in his mind. He knew he had loved someone, but the name was gone, replaced by a dull, gray fog. Panicked but intrigued, he took the key. That night, Elias realized Oakhaven wasn't a town of people. It was a town of echoes. In the hallway, he saw a man weeping into his hands. But the man had no face, only a smooth surface where features should be. In the garden, children played tag, but they made no sound when their feet hit the gravel. On the second night, Elias found the Library of Unspoken Words. It wasn't filled with books, but with thousands of jars like the one Martha held. He wandered the aisles until he found a jar labeled with his own name. Inside, a faint blue light flickered. He opened it. He didn't just remember Sarah. He saw the truth. Oakhaven wasn't a refuge for the lost. It was a filtration system. The people in town were the husks left behind after Martha or whatever she was harvested their most vital memories to feed the root, a massive, pulsating entity beneath the town square that kept the world's reality from unraveling. Elias heard a floorboard creak. He turned to see Martha. She wasn't angry. She looked hungry. "You weren't supposed to take it back, Elias," she said, her voice now sounding like 1,000 buzzing bees. "The debt must be paid. If you won't give the memory, you must give the vessel." Elias ran. He scrambled through the dark streets, but the geography of Oakhaven was shifting. The post office was now where the inn had been. The trees grew upside down, their roots clawing at the stars. He reached the town square and saw the root. It wasn't a plant. It was a tangle of human nerves, miles long, glowing with the stolen memories of 1,000 years. It was the brain of the world, and it was starving. He felt his skin begin to tighten, his features smoothing out like the faceless man in the hallway. His identity was being pulled toward the root like iron filings to a magnet. In a moment of pure instinct, Elias didn't try to save his memory. He did the opposite. He reached into his mind and offered the root his darkest, most poisonous thought, the memory of the crime that had put him in debt. The moment he had betrayed his own father for money, the root recoiled. The memory was too bitter, too toxic. The pulsating nerves turned black. The ground began to heave as the entity vomited the reality of Oakhaven. Elias woke up in his car, parked on the shoulder of a highway he didn't recognize. The sun was blinding. He looked in the rear-view mirror. His face was there, but his eyes were now the color of tarnished silver. He reached into his pocket and found a small brass key with a tag that read, "Property of the timekeeper." He remembered Sarah. He remembered his father. But when he looked at the GPS, the screen was blank, except for a single line of text. "The root is still hungry. Send us another." Elias didn't drive away. He couldn't. The car started, but every road he took, no matter how many miles he put on the odometer, led him back to the same rusted "Welcome to Oakhaven" sign. The town was a loop, and he was the needle stuck in the groove. He looked at the brass key. It felt warm, vibrating against his palm. The tag didn't just say "Property of the timekeeper." As he watched, the ink bled and reshaped itself into a new message. The basement of the clock tower. 4:44 p.m. He looked at his dashboard. It was 4:40 p.m. Elias stepped out of the car. The air in Oakhaven had changed. It was no longer silent. It was humming. The faceless residents were standing in the middle of the street, all turned toward the center of town. They didn't attack. They simply watched him with their blank, skin-covered heads. He reached the clock tower, a jagged needle of black stone that seemed to pierce the low-hanging clouds. The door groaned open before he could touch it. Inside, the smell of ozone and rotting roses was overwhelming. He descended a spiral staircase that seemed to go deeper than the earth should allow. At the bottom, he found a room filled with water, only the water didn't wet his shoes. It was liquid time, thick and silver, flowing through glass pipes that connected to a massive, brass-lunged machine. In the center of the room stood the timekeeper. It wasn't Martha. It wasn't even human. It was a suit of Victorian armor, filled with nothing but cogs and golden smoke. "You fed the root poison," the machine spoke, its voice a symphony of grinding gears. "Now the root is dying. And if the root dies, the before and after will collide. Yesterday will happen at the same time as tomorrow. The world will become a scream." Elias gripped the key. "I didn't ask to be your savior." "You aren't the savior," the timekeeper replied. "You are the filter. The root needs a mind to process the memories." Martha failed. She became greedy. She kept the best memories for herself. And the root began to starve. The machine pointed a metal finger at a chair made of the same nerve-like fibers Elias had seen in the square. "Sit," the timekeeper commanded. "You will be the one to decide which memories the world keeps and which ones are deleted to keep the timeline stable. You will see every birth, every murder, every first kiss. And you will have to choose which ones to erase to keep the machine running." Elias looked at the chair. He saw Sarah's face flicker in the silver liquid nearby. If he sat down, he could keep her memory forever, but he would never see her again. He would be the god of a dying town, a ghost in a machine. Then he noticed something. Under the timekeeper's feet, there was a drain, a small hexagonal grate where the black, poisoned memory he had fed the root was slowly leaking out. Elias didn't sit. Instead, he took the brass key and with a roar of desperation, jammed it into the main gear of the timekeeper's chest. The metal screeched. Sparks of gold smoke blinded him. The machine began to shudder, its internal clocks spinning backward at impossible speeds. "If the world is going to scream," Elias shouted over the din, "let it scream. I'm not playing your game." The room exploded in a flash of white. When Elias opened his eyes, he wasn't in a car. He wasn't in Oakhaven. He was standing in a crowded subway station in a city he recognized. People were rushing past him, buried in their phones. He felt a hand on his shoulder. He spun around, expecting a faceless man or a cold block of ice. It was Sarah. She looked older, tired, but she was real. "Elias?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Where have you been? You've been missing for 10 years. Elias tried to speak, but no words came out. He reached into his pocket. The key was gone. But as he looked at Sarah, he realized something terrifying. Behind her, every single person in the subway station had the same silver eyes as him. The root hadn't died. It had just moved. It wasn't under a town anymore. It was inside everyone. And Elias was the only one who knew that the world they were living in was just a memory being replayed to keep the machine from crashing.